What's up everyone, my name's James, and in today's video we're going to talk about Airbnb's upcoming or potentially not so upcoming IPO. Now, a lot of you probably heard that there's some talk going around, or there has been. Lately there's talk about another thing going around, but before all this craziness broke out in the world, there was some talk about Airbnb issuing for an IPO in the early to middle of 2020. Now, it's looking pretty unlikely that that's going to happen because, as a lot of you probably have heard recently, Airbnb is off to a little bit of a rocky start with 2020. Things are not going so hot in the tourism industry right now. People are seeming to stay home a little bit more than usual. And so it's a little bit rocky for Airbnb. So it's looking unlikely that many companies at all are going to be IPOing in the next 12 months here. And it's certainly looking rather unlikely that Airbnb is going to be, opening the doors on an IPO over the next couple months. Probably it's going to be over a year from now. And so in this video, I just want to talk about, as an Airbnb expert, what I think this means for Airbnb as a company overall, and what the future and the upcoming couple months and couple years look like for Airbnb as a company. I also want to talk about what this is going to mean for the overall industry at large. Stocks are plummeting left, right, and center. So I want to talk about what the tourism industry is going to look like, how it's going to be impacted, and how it's already being impacted. And I'm also going to talk about what I'm doing right now to take advantage of this time and take advantage of one of the greatest opportunities that I've seen in my lifetime. And so let's just go ahead and just get started, get right into it. And so I want to first start off by sharing what I see the future of Airbnb looking like. Is this the death of Airbnb? Is this the death of tourism, of home sharing, anything like that? And my answer is no, right? Because we've seen how Airbnb reacts during a recession. Now, obviously, with everything that's going on with the outbreak right now, that's a little bit of a different story. That's a little bit more uncharted waters. But the reality is that's not going to last forever, and it's not going to last for long enough to just cut Airbnb out of the knees. It's not very likely that that's ever going to happen because of this. And in a recession, Airbnb is going to survive just fine, is my thought, my opinion, because of how it was born in 2008, 2009, and how it grew massively year over year for the last 12 years since then, through one of the worst economic times in US history. Now, if you want more details about that and a real in-depth breakdown, I'm going to leave a link in the description to another video that I recently put together talking about the specifics of how Airbnb reacts during a recession. But in a nutshell, what we see is that more people are still going to be traveling, and more people are going to be turning to sites like Airbnb during a recession because they're budgeting and they want to travel more affordably, and that more hosts are going to enter onto the platform. And so Airbnb is going to grow as a company that way because people are looking for additional income to support themselves through economic hard times. And so, is tourism going to die? No. Is Airbnb and home sharing going to die? My prediction is no, that's not going to happen because of a recession, and that this is going to be a storm that Airbnb is going to have to weather that is going to set them back several months, potentially a year, maybe even longer, who knows, but that ultimately they are going to make it through this and they are going to end up IPOing. And then the next thing I want to talk about is how this looks and what the outlook is for the tourism industry at large. Well, so for starters, in case you haven't realized, in case you haven't checked it out, I recommend looking at stocks like PK, like Hilton stocks, like really any tourism stocks you can look at airlines, you can look at a big one is Carnival Cruise Lines right now. They are all absolutely tanking. These stocks are hitting the floor because tourism is virtually grinding to a halt. We're seeing companies, stocks that have historically over 5 years never dropped below $20 or $30 per share, that are trading at below $10 a share now. And the reality behind that is that these companies, the underlying companies, their profitability, their cash flows, none of that has changed. Right now, in the immediate future, it's not looking great for them because tourism is very low, and so there's not a lot of cash flooding this industry overall right now. But overall, the underlying company, the real estate that backs some of these companies is still unchanged. And so it's very likely that these companies are going to bounce back. Now, by no means am I some sort of financial or investing expert, but my prediction is that because the underlying companies have not changed at all, that these companies are going to bounce back, and that there's not a correction in the market that's happening right now with respect to tourism. It's more just a correction in the overall market, and it's a lot of fear around tourism right now that's driving these prices down more than anything. So my prediction is that once this fear starts to subside, that's when you're going to see these stocks starting to come back up. Now, in terms of what you can do and what I'm doing to take advantage of this opportunity that's going on right now, what I'm doing right now I can share is that I'm focusing on my business more than ever. If any of you are in hosting right now, whether you're doing rental arbitrage, whether you're hosting your own property, whether you're managing properties for other people, I recommend focusing on the business. Figure out, number one, how you can become as lean as possible. Cut the unnecessary expenses because you don't know how long this is going to last. So if you have cash in the bank right now, then you're going to want to conserve that cash. You're going to want to keep it open for a rainy day. And you're going to want to make sure that cash can go as far as possible. And the best way to do that is by cutting down your expenses. From there, focus on the business. You're not going to have a lot of work to do in the business because the reality is that there's not a lot of guests to serve right now. And so if you take this time to focus on the business, then you're going to come out the other side a lot more well prepared. Now, I'm going to leave another link in the description below to a video I recently put together that'll go over how to survive this Airbnb apocalypse that's going on right now. And it's going to talk more specifically about what I mean when I say to focus on the business and a few things that you can do to prepare, to limit the downside, things like that. The other thing that you can do is keep that cash, and if you have excess cash that you know you're going to be fine, you've got enough to weather yourself for 6 to 12 months if need be, and you've got a surplus of cash on top of that, that's when it might make sense to invest into some companies that right now are on a flash sale. Hilton, Marriott, Carnival Cruises, the airlines, they're all on this huge sale where the companies are 50, 60, 70% off, some of them. And so taking some of your cash and investing it into those companies can end up being really positive. Now, that's something that I'm doing. Like I said, I'm not a financial or investing expert by any means, but what I do know is that when situations like this come up, there's a lot of fear that drives the market. It's irrational. It doesn't impact the underlying value of the companies that are being impacted. It's just a lot of fear, a lot of speculation that's driving these prices down. And it doesn't take a genius to know that a company that's been trading at $20 to $30 a share for the last 5 years without ever dropping below that, being valued at $10 per share all of a sudden or $5 per share all of a sudden, is a little bit out of whack. Make sure that you do your research, that you actually research the company and understand the investment you're making so you're not just gambling. Or if you are adverse to that, you don't want to get into it, it's not your wheelhouse, you don't want to get involved, then potentially look at putting some money into an index fund, something that is low cost and that diversifies your investment over an entire group of assets so that you are exposed to a lot less risk, because overall, again, things are on sale. I've largely been holding my cash personally up until now so I can get into the market when the time is right. Now, that being said, I also understand there's common wisdom out there that says that time in the market is a lot more valuable than time in the market. And so I don't know what's best there. I'm not a financial expert, but what I do know is that right now is a good time to be getting into the market if you can, but just make sure that you measure that with the fact that, number one, you need to have enough cash. In cash, I'm not talking about cash invested, I'm talking about real cash in the bank, in bills, ideally in the bank though, that you can actually use to sustain your business and your livelihood. So make sure that your needs are taken care of for as long as you need to stay safe, number one. And then number two, make sure that you're investing intelligently, make sure you're doing your research. I know I personally have been doing a lot more reading about investing lately to make sure that I actually am informed about the companies that I'm investing in and I know a little bit more about what's going on. Now, that I think is a baseline that goes without saying for when you're getting started with anything. So hopefully this has been really helpful. Hopefully this has been an interesting take from an Airbnb expert on exactly where the industry is heading, what to look out for. Remember that as a host right now, you're weathering a storm that is not going to last forever. Once you get through this, you're going to come out the other side and there is going to be a great opportunity on the other side of this. And so again, there's a link in the description below to a video where I go in depth about exactly what that opportunity looks like and how you can weather this storm. So go ahead and check that out to get more information about this. But remember, we're all in this together. We're all going through the same thing. And we're all going to be able to come out of this on the other side really, really well positioned if we take the right action right now to prepare for what's to come in the future and to mitigate a lot of the losses and potential downsides right now. So hopefully it's been helpful. If it has been, give the video a thumbs up, give it a like. I really appreciate it. It does a really huge help to me with the YouTube algorithm. And if you want more videos, you want more content relating to Airbnb and how you can weather the storm and just overall best practices for Airbnb, then click the subscribe button, subscribe to see more videos, and then I will see you in the next one. Until then.